Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets here on bet.nola.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. It is your weekend betting recap, all things sports betting news. Zach Ewing alongside Jim Derry and Devin Jackson on this Monday, the final day of January. And the final day, the second to last day, we have NFL games to recap this season, sadly. We'll have one more after the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. But what a ride it has been, what a day it was yesterday. A big underdog victory for the Bengals and another comeback victory, this time by the favorite, the Los Angeles Rams, to reach the Super Bowl. And that is your matchup, Bengals and Rams. And so we will talk plenty of that, and we will talk plenty of other stuff as well. We got some basketball. We have some golf. We got Uncle Big Nick joining the show. I'm excited for this. The level of hilarity will increase today.
I can't wait.
You don't sound very convinced.
I mean, I got to talk to him every Friday and text with him like 18 times a day. So at least he's a little bit subdued now that the 49ers lost.
Yeah. The obnoxious level may have petered off just a little bit. Before we get into too much, though, we do want to let you know that the Caesars Sportsbook app is live in Louisiana at long last, and you can download it at nola.com/Caesars. Or using the promo code NOLA300. The easy way to do it is NOLA.com/Caesars. That promo code will be in there. And the offer is if you bet $20, you will get $300 in bonus cash into your account. And having bet over the weekend, guys, it's that bonus cash is real nice because it's a lot more fun when you can't lose any real money.
Well, I guess in the grand scheme of things, we could lose real money.
You lose really the chance at gaining the money. I don't know.
I mean, if you're bad enough, you could lose money. I mean, you have to, you and I were kind of talking during the weekend. You still have to be, you still have to be in the neighborhood of 35 to 40% winning to make any real profit out of it. But we'll see.
I mean, if you're below 35%.
Probably shouldn't be playing. Right?
You shouldn't be playing. You're also doing so poorly that it's not sustainable. Just as in winning 65% is not sustainable no matter how good you are. Losing 65% is not sustainable no matter how bad you are. Not unless you're betting all huge parlays. Then yeah, you could lose it all. But if you're betting, in the neighborhood minus 110, minus 120 bets, you're going to hit 40% of them just by happenstance. You're just going to crash into it. It is a good deal, and obviously we recommend that you be sensible, and we're going to talk about responsible gambling as much as we can on this show. But the bonus bets is it's a nice way to get into it, put it that way. Bet $20, get $300 free, and then you can make that last a month. You got to bet the bonus cash within a month, but if you do that, you may have a nice little bankroll to work with. Devin, how was your first weekend of betting?
Went pretty well. I really don't have any complaints. The games were phenomenal, and thought about during the game putting down a bet on the Bengals, but just the way that the first half went, you would have thought Kansas City was going to run away with it. But second half I'm kind of glad I didn't put any money down on that game. So I will say that.
What was the live money line on the Bengals when it was 21-3? I never.
It was like 18.
It got as high as it got as high as 18. And I'm sure we're going to get into this, and you could put up the slide of the score if you want. But I'm just going to jump right into it. That play at the end of the first half was just so insanely bad that I went and jumped on. I wasn't going to bet a spread at all. I had enough props going on. I had enough going on with my futures, which I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit. So I was going to stay away from the line unless I saw something on a live line that I really liked. And when Kansas City made that boneheaded play at the end of the first half, it was 11.5. The Bengals were getting 11.5, and I jumped all over it. I couldn't wait to jump on it. To me, I wasn't sure that the Bengals were going to win the game, and I almost pressed that plus 525 money line. I almost did, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to get greedy here. I'm just going to take the 11.5. To me, that changed the whole course of the game, and I thought it would. Again, I didn't necessarily know if the Bengals would win the game. Obviously, I would have bet the 525, but I thought it would change the momentum and course of the game, and I thought it gave an opening for Joe Burrow to get back in, and if the defense could get a stop on that opening drive, which they did.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So the pass interference on Eli Apple happened with 9 seconds left.
Right.
And so the Chiefs get the ball at the 1. I think that most people would agree it's worth running one play there.
For sure.
Most plays don't take 9 seconds. They didn't have any timeouts. And so this is not your typical what are the chances of gaining 1 yard, because running the ball is really out of the equation, because if you run the ball and don't get it, you're going to miss out. And so the chances are lower of getting that 1 yard than they normally are, especially because you can't run the ball and you want to hurry because you're trying to leave enough time. So they didn't get it the first time. Mahomes did the smart thing, the snap with 9 seconds left, and just threw the ball into the ground. 5 seconds left. Now you're really walking a tightrope. That first play took 4 seconds. So if you think, okay, well, we can do another one in 4 seconds, leave ourselves 1 second to get the field goal team out here, great. But it's a little bit greedy to do that, because you're not giving Mahomes the chance to run around in the backfield like he does and wait for the open man. You're not allowing the chance for a running play unless you're willing to forfeit the field goal, which maybe they were. Maybe that was the idea, was if we score a touchdown here, it's 28-10 and this game is over. The field goal is not worth anything to us. We're going for it. Maybe that was the dice they were rolling. But I just have a hard time believing that they thought, yeah, we'll run a play and we'll run a good play and it will take less than 5 seconds and we'll still get the kicker out here. There's a lot of ifs there, even when you have the best quarterback on the planet, and he obviously did not execute well. And you're right. It put him in a funk for the rest of the game. Patrick Mahomes was terrible in the second half. He was awful. They scored 3 points in the entire second half.
I was going to say, when you think about the kind of the thought process, even if they settle for the field goal there, they got the ball to start the second half. So you still had a chance to go up by 3 scores, once you come out and you go out and score in the third quarter. And, I understand taking that gamble. And then once you come out at halftime, if you're up 28-10, you can go up 35-10 and really put the game away. But in that situation, if there is nothing open in the end zone, just throw out the back of the end zone. Don't risk on a dump off where it's pretty much a 50-50 chance that Tyreek Hill breaks that tackle and scores. I mean, we've seen him make those type of plays before, but just with the height of the game, you got to take the points there, because as we saw in the second half, even 3 points there would have helped them, at least hold off the Bengals. So,
I mean, from a strictly, if it's truly a 50-50 chance that Tyreek gets in there, well, 50% chance of getting 7 points, you say, oh, that's better than 3. But I mean, this is what Jim's always saying, is look at the logic of it, look at the common sense. You're up by 11 points at that point. You're at home, like you said, Devin. You're getting the ball in the second half. Everything's pretty much going right for you to that point. Don't force something to go wrong. If you're trailing and you really need the 7, then maybe that risk is worth it more. But
here's my thing on that, Zach. I don't have as much a problem with them trying to run a play. But if you're Andy Reid, and I'm not blaming Patrick Mahomes at all. I'm really not. To me, it's a coaching thing. Someone wrote on there, where is it? Who's the Gary Anderson, right? And how is anyone not saying fire Andy Reid? Well, you can't fire Andy Reid, okay? I mean,
no,
that's absurd. But that being said, if you're Andy Reid or you're Eric Bieniemy on the mic before the play, you're saying we're going to run some kind of double slant. You're going to throw it quickly into the end zone. If you don't have it immediately, you throw it over their head. That's the last thing you're saying. Don't throw it anywhere in the field of play. You have to make this clear, even to Patrick Mahomes, because we know he's going to try to make something happen. But there's no way it was made clear before that play that you have to get the ball out quickly, and it's something that needs to be talked about, even with someone like Patrick Mahomes. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, I don't necessarily – I think you can get a playoff in 5 seconds. But you get 3 points there. It's 24-10, okay? And then you go – you still have the momentum. You come out, and even if you kick a field goal to start the second half, it's a 3-score game, and it's completely different. I'm not saying the Bengals wouldn't have had a chance to win the game, but their odds are astronomically larger to come back and win that game if it's a 17-point lead with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. So that's kind of my point. Besides the fact that the Bengals went in the locker room thinking, we can do this now because we've done it already. They were losing by 11 the last time they played them at home, And I guarantee you Zach Taylor's in the locker room saying, hey, but guys, guess what happened the last time we played the Bengals? We were down by 11 at halftime. And they say, oh, yeah, they're fired up. They were down and out. I mean, after that third touchdown, the players just body language told you that they were done. And the Chiefs didn't had a chance to me, even with a field goal, I think almost bury them right there.
Yeah, and that's where the game situation comes into it a little bit more. It's like, well, you know, and Mahomes, I don't know, so much of the Mahomes magic is in his artistry and his improvisation, right? You give him a chance to run around in the backfield and win on a broken play. That's what he does. That's what he's amazing at. That's why we saw it just last week against Buffalo. So many times, Josh Allen did the same thing, but Mahomes, oh, this play's over. There's no way he's getting out of that. Holy crap! How did he do that? And and then Tyreek Hill streaking down the field, or Travis Kelce is bulldozing his way down the field, and it's amazing. But what you don't understand is when you, in a play like that, that works against you. And so I understand from Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy the idea, hey, it's Pat, we can trust Pat. But you're right, you got to get, and even in the replay after the play, you can see Mahomes saying timeout. Well, they didn't have any timeouts.
Right.
I mean, He didn't know the situation.
Chris Webber.
Yeah, there's no penalty for it in the NFL like there is in college basketball, but like he clearly was, and then I don't know if that was strictly what affected him in the second half. The Bengals probably changed their scheme up a little bit, but he was not the same. I mean, he looked awful in the second half.
Guys, I'd like to ask your opinion on. I've lost a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is, because respect's definitely not the right word. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Patrick Mahomes. So confidence, I guess, the right word. I've lost a little bit of confidence thinking, 2 years ago, or even maybe midway through last year, I thought this kid has a chance to be the best quarterback that's ever played this game. And he's shown over the past 20 games or so, 25 games maybe, that if you rattle him a little bit, he's nowhere near like a Tom Brady or a Joe Montana where he can shake off being rattled. I mean, once you get in his head a little bit, he's a different guy. I mean, what was he doing at the end of the game there? I mean, just running around, and then he fumbles the football, and he's lucky that Thuney was there to follow on it, or the game's over there. I don't know, man. And when he gets in funks, when he's at his best, he's the best who's ever played this game. And it's early. I don't care. We can debate this till the cows come home. But when he's rattled, he scares me.
He's still young. He still has a chance to be,
that's true.
An all-time great. But he is teetering a little more toward Brett Favre than Joe Montana right now. Kind of the gunslinger, like, can be amazing, can do anything, but can also lose you the game. And that's he's kind of taken that fork in the road just a little bit. I want to move on.
Way to put it.
We'll talk NFC game. Devin, I want to give you a chance. You like Rams in this game. And for 3 quarters, they just couldn't do anything on that Niners defense. They got into the red zone and threw the pick the one time. Also had the drop in the end zone. So maybe it was just a matter of time. But they get it going in the fourth quarter. What was your take here as the Rams come back to beat the 49ers?
The Rams have won pretty much how they've won down the stretch of the season, where they can't play a full 60 minutes consistently. And that's what's scary about them still, even heading to the Super Bowl, is that when you think about it, I mean, the last time they played a full 60 minutes, against the Cardinals? And they pretty much put that game away early on. So for me, I think they finally got over, that hump of like, we can beat these guys, and they could have beaten the last time they met up, but they kept being conservative. They kept being very, non-aggressive. And I will say, the 49ers dropped there in the fourth quarter on interception. That woke up Matthew Stafford. That was kind of a aha moment. I need to get this right. And then he went down the field and scored and was able to pretty much hold off the 49ers after that. But for the Rams, I just feel like they're still learning a lot of these guys are still learning how to win, and they're doing it on the fly. And because they have so much talent and, they put this all in approach, they're finally getting it done. But I still wasn't super convinced with the win. I think the Bengals, and this is kind of looking ahead, but I think the Bengals should be given quite the consideration to win this game outright because of the Rams' inability to play a consistent full 60 minutes. Because they could go out in the Super Bowl, have a great first half, but then you worry about how they're going to come out in the second half because they've really come out flat over the last couple of games in the second half.
You see there the line on the Super Bowl open at Rams 3.5 has gone to 4 most places, and at Caesars it has gone to 4.5, and so it is moving in the Rams' direction early. Usually at the Super Bowl, within the first couple of days, that line will settle and not move a whole lot unless there's injury news or something. But I do want to talk about this because I haven't riled Jim up quite enough yet. I do think, speaking of getting too conservative, I thought the 49ers got too conservative in this game. I thought, you could talk about the dropped interception. In a close game, there's always different things. The moment the 49ers lost the plot for me is when they punted from the plus 45 on 4th and 2. You have the game in your control, another couple of first downs, and the Rams are in a world of hurt at that point. And instead they punted and they gained, I think the punt was fair caught at the 17 or something. So it's like 28 yards of field. 28 yards of field position is worth a chance to really put a nail in? Come on. That's just a point where, to me, what are we looking at here?
This is the same envelope that I brought to you last week. Last week, the teams that have won have gone for it on 4th down a total number of 5 times. The teams that have lost have gone for it 24 times.
And I think we also discussed how that's a ridiculous stat because you're not taking into game situation into account. Because if you're behind, of course you're going for it on 4th down.
6-1.
Of course, you're going for it a lot more.
It's not 6-1 difference in the. It's not 6-1 difference in the regular season. I promise you.
But
it's not even in the neighborhood of 6-1 difference. It's more like 2 to 1.
I think it is. Explain to me though.
You want to bet right here on Bayou Bets? You want to bet here on Bayou? I'll give you that it's better that it's not 4 to 1. We'll bet right here, and I'll spend 3 hours and do research on it.
We'll have to talk offline about the parameters, but I'm fairly confident in that. So we may have a bet there. Okay. Look, just look at this situation. 28 yards to give up. What do you have? Maybe a 55% chance, 60% chance of getting 2 yards. You have Deebo Samuel, for crying out loud. 2 yards? Go win the dang game and go to the Super Bowl.
Two quick points. First off, specifically on your point, I disagree, but not vehemently. And the reason why I disagree is because your defense has been pretty darn good. So
okay, then don't worry about the 28 yards.
Hold on. To that point, you're thinking if you punt the ball away, you're going to keep them back there. You're keeping the world of field position in your favor. You win. But here's to a bigger point where I completely disagree on the aggressiveness. We'll see what Uncle Big Nick thinks in a minute. I think that the 49ers were not nearly conservative enough throughout the entire ball game. Where was Elijah Mitchell? Okay, I get that he didn't have the greatest game, but they rushed for 50 yards. They didn't try to run the ball.
Rushed on like 90% of their first downs. They ran the ball. It didn't work. It wasn't working.
They ran the ball 19 times in the game. You can't tell me they were running. They gave up on the run way too early. You're putting this game on Jimmy G's shoulders from the get-go. And that was the biggest mistake Kyle Shanahan made in this game. It didn't make any sense. Eli Mitchell, 11 carries. It makes zero sense to me. Not only that, you're killing Deebo Samuel, who, again, we talked about it Thursday. He's already bruised and battered. And I get that he did the best that he could. He wasn't the Deebo Samuel that, other than one play, really, he wasn't the Deebo Samuel that we've been seeing. But you can't keep giving him the ball over and over and over again. You got to find a way to get the ball to 25, and they didn't. You got to find a way to get the ball to George Kittle across the middle. They didn't utilize the middle of the field at all. If you're going to throw the football, then get the ball across the middle of the field with those worse than average Rams linebackers, and they didn't try to utilize that nearly enough. So I think the opposite. I think they tried to go for some big plays here and there. I think they tried to use Deebo Samuel too much, and I think they gave up on the run way too early, and the stats prove that.
There was a couple of drives in the second half. I said it on Twitter during the game. The Bengals were the same way, just running Joe Mixon into the line for 1 yard on first down on like 4 straight series. It's like, okay,
right, but
second and 9 again.
Open it up. You make them think that you're not going to do it anymore. And guess what? At some point, the Rams think they're not going to run the ball anymore, and they didn't.
I'm
so
not
the
saying
Rams
you don't
had them
run
figured
at
out.
all. 19 times is not all
19
that low
times
for
is
today's NFL.
Hugely low number. Hugely low.
But you're averaging 2-point-something
The
yards
Rams
per carry.
who don't run the ball. Okay, here you go. The Rams who don't run the ball very well ran the ball 29 times yesterday, and they only gained 70 yards. So they didn't give up on the run. And whether it was effective or not, you got to make the other team think you're going to run the ball. The Rams said, okay, you're not going to run the ball. And if you do, we're going to stuff you at the line, whatever. They gave up on the Shanahan coached this game awfully. So all this talk about how Shanahan's better than McVay, and I think we're going to have someone that's going to agree with me in just a minute. All this talk about how Shanahan's better than McVay and he's got his number and blah, blah, blah. Guess what? McVay outcoached him yesterday, and by a large margin, because one thing that did change my mind, I said before the game, I thought the Rams were a much better football team. I don't believe that anymore. I think the 49ers actually, if at worst it's even, and if maybe the 49ers are a little bit better, and if they get a real quarterback, or if Trey Lance turns into something, they're going to be really hard to beat going forward.
Thank you, Lincoln. That's the king of skewed stats.
It's not a skewed stat. Okay. Yeah. It's always a skewed stat when you don't agree with the premise of the philosophy, right? I just gave you a stat of the Rams. The Rams don't run the ball well. They never do. But yet they kept on pushing and going at the 49ers saying, we think we're better than you. We think our line's better than you. To hell with you, Joey Bosa. We're going to keep coming at you. And they did. And it opened up things in the passing game. There's a reason why Cooper Kupp was able to catch 11 passes for 142 yards, because you think they just double team him every time, but you don't know when you keep running the ball and you can't figure out whether they're going to run or pass.
Elijah Mitchell, 11 carries. I guess you could argue he should have gotten more. He had 1 9-yard carry early. After that, 10 carries for 12 yards. I don't know that more of that was the recipe.
That's giving up on running the football.
Don't know that more at 1.2 yards per rush.
Right, you don't know. You don't know, but I do know this. What they were doing, putting the ball in Jimmy G's hands to win the game was not the way to win the football game. Period. Amen. And if you think that it was, then you're crazy.
Well,
if you think Jimmy G is going to win the game for you, you're crazy. He's not a good quarterback.
He played very well for 3 quarters. And on that note, we'll bring in Uncle Big Nick. Listen, he's a 49ers fan. We're talking to him, Nick, because you had a huge win in golf, and we'll get to that too. But we got to get your take on this as a 49ers fan. What was the cause of the home team's demise yesterday?
It was the away team, but Shanahan.
Well, your home team. Yeah, your favorite team's demise.
Right.
Put it that way.
Well, it's like I hate agreeing with Jim. Can we get Jim a notebook? He's got to write his stats down on an envelope. Come on.
He's got a budget, man.
It's ridiculous.
I got it.
No,
works. But as long as I can read it doesn't matter.
I told Jim ahead of time, Shanahan needed to get creative. They needed to use Debo as a decoy. McVay ran a flea flicker. Imagine Shanahan running a flea flicker to Debo. How many people would just go down on it? He just got outcoached. The Jimmy G drive at the end of the regular season to get them in the playoffs, I think he was still thinking that was that same quarterback, but it wasn't.
Am I wrong in saying Jimmy G played pretty well for 3 quarters?
He played decent, but every time he drops back and he's got people around him, I cringe. Like, I know it's coming. I know what's going to happen. I know how bad the throw's going to be. And Jim is right on running the ball. Shanahan always says he wants to run the ball 30 to 40 times a game. He ran it 19. And they were ahead. That's the
main. We didn't. By the way, we didn't talk about this before. We did not talk about this at all. Like, not at all. We don't talk during 49ers games or Saints games. So we had not talked about this at all. Just to make
that's how we stay friends, because we don't talk during those games.
Well, the other thing I want to say about that is, first of all, the 49ers only had the ball for 24 minutes. The Rams dominated time of possession, so it makes it difficult to run the ball.
That's also that is true,
especially in the first half. So I think that's part of it.
But you're winning 17-7.
I will also say Sean McVay did not exactly cover himself in glory, blowing all 3 timeouts by the end of the third quarter. there were things he could have done a lot better too. Where if the Rams lose a game, we're second guessing a lot of that stuff too. So I don't know.
I couldn't believe he challenged that.
Both challenges were dumb.
Two just terrible
my God,
challenges.
terrible.
Yeah, they were off.
Just terrible challenges.
I also think they should have went for it on fourth down right there.
One of my litmus tests for whether you go for it on fourth down is, if I'm a Rams fan, do I want you to punt? And yes, I did.
Yes.
If I'm a Rams fan, I wanted the ball back. Please punt. Please don't give that ball to Deebo Samuel. And so that's my litmus test for, you should probably go for this.
When they challenged and they came out the huddle, and I said, oh, great, they're going for it. I want them to go for it.
Yeah.
And then they just – when does that drawing offsides ever work? Did everybody ever see that work?
It doesn't work when they know it's coming.
Yeah,
the
cornerbacks were just sitting there with their hands on their hips. I mean, if you run a quick slant right there, it's perfect. Well, then
but also though, in Shanahan's defense, there, if you'd rather take a delay a game, and that's the best way to take a delay a game, you get your punter more room. So
get your punter more room is such a 1978 way of thinking. Man.
Oh, Jesus Christ! And you know what? There were some really good teams back in 1978.
Yeah,
too.
who would all get
the only team that's ever gone undefeated throughout the Super Bowl is the Miami Dolphins in 1972. So something was working back then. Guess what? The Patriots didn't do it back when they went 16-0.
What are we even talking about here? All the teams acted the same way back then.
You're acting like old school football never works. Like if that was a playback from 1974, it cannot work now. It's just dumb.
I didn't say it never works.
No, I
didn't say it never works.
No, you want this. You know what? People want the XFL or something. I mean, really. Some people want the XFL, and you know what? If you want the XFL, go watch maybe this new USFL is for you or whatever. But that's not how winning football teams, the Buffalo Bills are out of this game for multiple reasons. And one of them is because they're a little too aggressive. Guess what? Maybe the two most aggressive teams in the NFL, the Chiefs and the Bills, they're bye-bye. The teams that play, to me, real football, the Bengals and the Rams, they're both teams that you could, in a way, take from before. You could take this, you could see the same Bengals team from 1985 or whatever, and they would win back then. You could certainly take this Rams team and put them back in 1985, and they would certainly win. So you could talk about your aggressiveness and your newness and your fourth down and you go for two and blah, blah. Guess what? 24-5, buddy. You go for two when you have to. You go for two when you have to go for two, and you go for it on fourth down when you have to go for it on fourth down. I don't necessarily disagree with the whole going for when you're talking about the position you're talking about going for it. I'm not just talking about that one because I don't necessarily disagree. I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have gone for it.
It was an egregious call to punt. There's no if about it. It was egregious.
The third and two call was egregious too. That was a terrible play call.
Well, it's an opinion. If they punt the football and they stop them 3 and out, and the 49ers get the ball back at midfield and drive down and kick a field goal, no one's talking about this today. I mean, we're really not talking about it today.
I mean, here's the thing, though. If you thought you could stop them 3 and out, then why not go for it? If you can stop them 3 and out, you're getting the ball back even if you don't get it.
I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with this one particular point. I don't disagree with you on this one particular point. I'm just saying in general, your philosophy of let's just throw caution to the wind. Teams that throw caution to the wind more than they don't throw caution to the wind don't play in Super Bowls. Period.
Listen. That might be the hot take of the year, that the 1972 Dolphins went undefeated, therefore football in the 70s was better. They were playing worse teams. How about that?
I'm just saying you're talking about football back in the day. What happened back in the day relates to what happens today. And so you want to take a hot take? Here's my hot take. Teams that are aggressive more than they're not aggressive are not in the Super Bowl, and they don't win except on rare cases. Period. You look at the teams that win Super Bowl.
There's a good one from Christopher. There's a good one.
Oh, that's great.
Be aggressive.
Okay,
baby.
let's go back and find one from 11 years ago. And the reason why they did an onside kick is they didn't have a choice. They were going to lose the football game. Okay, so they threw caution to the wind when they were losing. You don't throw caution to the wind just to throw caution to the wind.
Down by what were they down by at halftime?
Here's
3
the thing.
points?
It's what people want to see. It's what people want to see because it's enjoyable. And if you don't have any rooting interest in the team, you can laugh at it after it doesn't work, or you can say, "Wow, what a great play! What an aggressive play call!" But if you're a fan of one of those teams and your team goes for it on 4th inches from their own 30-yard line in the first half, you're like, "What are you doing?" And we've said, "What are you doing?" way more than we've said, "Great aggressive play call there, coach."
Look, the Saints had to onside kick, and the Dolphins were great because they punted a lot.
The Dolphins are great. That's exactly what I said. The Dolphins are great
because
they punted a lot. That's exactly what I said. Jesus Christ. Let's move on.
They were probably great because all the other teams kept punting to them.
No, they were probably great.
I thought I was the only one that made Jim this angry.
I told you I had to get him fired up. Coach and Larry Zonka was really good at running the ball. And Mercury Morris.
I mean,
that's probably why they were good.
Might have had something to do with it too. Nick, before we get into golf, which is really something I want to talk to you about, let's get your take on the Super Bowl. Rams favored to the surprise of nobody, but is that too many points?
I don't know how you bet against Burrow right now. I mean, this team just seems like it's got the it factor, and nothing rattles them at all. I mean, you're down 21-3 in Arrowhead. I understand the dumb play at the end of the half, but I mean, I can't bet against Burrow.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll make our official picks on this in the coming weeks. We got almost 2 weeks to think about it. But Devin, your initial impression to this line?
I think it's about right. I mean, the Rams are certainly the better football team, just built when you look at how these teams are built. But the X factor in this game is going to be the quarterback play. Matthew Stafford had a fairly pedestrian first half, but played really well in the second half. And then, of course, Joe Burrow doing Joe Burrow things. So I think it's going to be interesting to look at this matchup and see how it changes over the next few weeks and see if there's going to be any injuries that may pop up. But I think the line is about right. But I'm inclined at this point to take the Bengals because I just can't bet against them anymore at this point. Every time that I bet against them this postseason, they have flat out proved me wrong. So
they've killed me too, and it's just Christopher's out here laughing because he's betting on the Bengals. Jim, your take on this line?
It's really, I have not begun any handicap, but the first thing that comes to mind is there are two key matchups in this game. They both for the Rams. So I don't know if that's the way that I'm leaning, but the Rams D-line against the Bengals O-line, and just because they didn't allow any sacks today, are we supposed to automatically believe that everything's cured and they're playing so much better? I'm not sure. And then the second one to me is Eli Apple versus OBJ. I mean,
Jamar Chase versus Ramsey is going to be real fun.
It is going to be fun. I agree with you. But, I mean, those are the two things that came out on me. And I can't remember what's the Bengals' top defensive back, Uzier. Whoever it's going to be on Cooper Kupp, obviously. So their second best defensive back, which has got to be Eli Apple, is going to be on OBJ.
I don't know if Dion could cover Cooper Kupp right now.
Nobody can cover Cooper Kupp.
It's ridiculous.
I just don't know. It's scary. I mean, it really is hard to bet against the Bengals right now. And obviously, with my little $10 future bet on the Bengals to win $1,500, super thrilled if the Bengals win this game, and I get to root for Joe Burrow. But at the same time, do I think? I mean, you got to put the over under on sacks at realistically, like 4.5. I mean, I'd probably take the over.
That's exactly where I'm at, Jim. And again, these aren't our official picks; those will come next week. But I keep thinking about that offensive line against the Rams. And James Carville said it on Thursday. I'm afraid if that's the matchup, Joe Burrow's going to get killed because they don't have anybody who can block Donald. They don't have anybody who can block Von Miller. And again, I'm with Devin. I've gotten burned by the Bengals. I've bet against them all 3 weeks of this postseason, and I've gotten burned every single time. But and I understand people love Joe Burrow, and he's been amazing, and it's a hell of a story. It really is. But the Raiders had a chance to throw one into the end zone to beat them. Didn't quite happen.
Should've.
The Titans had a chance to beat them. Ball gets tipped, interception. Okay. The Chiefs had a chance to beat them. It was 21-3. They had a tipped ball interception in overtime. They also had the ball inside the 5 at the end of regulation where a touchdown beats them. Let's not pretend the Bengals have not been extremely fortunate. Now, they've taken advantage of the fortune.
Then maybe they're a team of
Raiders ball went off of somebody's helmet. It skipped off of somebody's helmet. That's how lucky that was for that.
And I mean,
and the guy was wide open.
They could have been out. They could have lost that game in Cincinnati, and then the narrative is, oh, my God, they choked again. It's been 32 years since they've won a playoff game. Instead, that ball skips off somebody's helmet. They win it. Then they take – and again, I'm not trying to take anything away from them because they've taken advantage of these breaks, and maybe they are the team of destiny. But let's not forget that it's also the team that lost to the Bears. It's also the team that struggled with the Jaguars. I mean, are they better than then? Yes. Are they that much better than then? At the end of the year, I tend to go with the more talented team. And the more talented team by quite a long shot, especially up front, is the Rams. So,
but Chris, you go back, Zach, and Christopher talked about the Saints back in 2009. I mean, let's think about it, okay? If you think about the 2009 NFC Championship game, well, really January 24th, 2010, not that I remember dates or anything, against the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings were clearly the better team that day. If Favre doesn't throw one across his body, they kick a field goal there, and they go to the Super Bowl instead of the Saints. If the Saints don't really, in grand scheme of things, get lucky with an onside kick and change the momentum of the game, and even there at the end get a little bit lucky and get the pick six, I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes here's what scares me, and I don't know who I'm going to take. I mean, if I had to pick today, I might take Cincinnati because there is something about a team of destiny, right? I mean, the Saints were a team of destiny in 2009. The football gods were in their favor. And maybe the football gods are just in the Bengals' favor this year. Who knows?
I will say, if you like the Bengals, I kind of like this bet a little better because the Bengals are, I think, plus 180 on the money line. If they win it, there's like a 97% chance Joe Burrow's the MVP, right?
I think it's 99.
Take Burrow to win MVP. I mean, I guess Jamar Chase could go off and have a 250-yard day, although against Jalen Ramsey, that seems unlikely. If the Bengals win it, Burrow is almost certainly the MVP. And so I would take that before I would take and by the way, look out at Caesars because you could see odds boosts for Louisiana bettors on Joe Burrow to win MVP. It might go up. So maybe wait, because if it's plus 220 now, they might offer it for 24 hours only at plus 300 or something like that.
The problem is there'll probably be a cap on
it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But for the casual bettor, that's probably the way to go. I mean, I think if you like the Bengals, I would take a hard look at Burrow to win MVP because if they win, it seems almost certain that he's the guy.
Mark this down on your calendar, boys and girls. Zach Ewing and I agree.
It happens more than you think. Hey, you like my Mahomes Brett Favre comparison too. It's just that when we disagree, we get into it. We need to buy Devin like a referee's jersey.
Devin just sits back and laughs.
Yeah.
Can you blame him? He can't get a word in.
Yeah. What else can he do? Yeah. Oh, hey, I want to talk to Uncle Big Nick. The big story of the weekend for you came Saturday when Luke List, who a lot of people had never even heard of before Saturday, wins the PGA event at Torrey Pines. Tell us about your futures bet on Mr. List.
It was a nice little payday. I mean, golf betting is so hard, but I mean, it's not two teams. It's not point spreads. It's not anything like that. It's different than anything you've ever done, and I love it. If they told me I could only bet on one sport the rest of my life, I'd pick golf, just because of the way the odds are. It's just the odds are so great, and you got a guy 70-1 winning the tournament. You know, I mean, you can't get that in football.
Everybody's a long shot. Now,
not everybody, but I mean,
even the favorites are like 6-1, 7-1.
Yeah.
When you handicap a golf event, what goes into it? How do you come up with a name like Luke List?
Well, I follow a lot of podcasts. That's where I get a lot of my information. I got a spreadsheet that I use. I mean, each course is different. Some guys play better on the East Coast. Some guys play better on the West Coast. You got different types of greens that they put on. Some guys are better on Poa greens. Some guys are better on Bermuda. You know, I mean, you got wide fairways. You got skinny fairways. You got skinny fairways. You got to get somebody that hits it long and straight. And then you got iron play that comes into it. It's not just, hey, I like this guy, I'm going to get him to win. It's so much that goes into it. I spent 3 days handicapping a golf tournament before I laid my bets. Wow.
Well, and I know you did well in fantasy golf as well last week. And listen, with football ending, I'm not saying you should go look for things to bet on, but there are other sports to bet on that are fun. And golf is one of them. Here's the early odds for the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, which is the PGA event next weekend. Obviously, it's a little early to say who you like. but
I like a couple people on here.
We do see some familiar names up here. By the way, Maverick McNeely and Seamus Power I'm convinced those names are made up.
They're not. A lot of people like McNeely early, but McNeely has never won a golf tournament. So I normally don't bet the favorites, and I definitely am not betting a guy that's under 30-1 to win his first golf tournament. Like, I like Justin Rose on this list. Jason Day's a guy that was really good when he was healthy, and he's finally getting healthy again. And he's going to be on my card until he wins. I know he's going to win a tournament, and it's coming soon. And he's finished top 7 in the last 4 years at this event. So he's definitely going to be on there.
One thing that's important to know too, Zach, is it's not just betting winners. You can bet top 10s, top 20s. I think you can even bet. Can you bet top 5s, Nick?
Yeah, top 5s, top 40s even.
So, I mean, if you look at a guy's history and especially at a certain course, a guy like Jason Day might be good to. You might bet more on. You might put, and I'm using numbers as an example, but you might be willing to lay $100 on Jason Day to finish in the top 10, whereas you're only going to put 10 or $20 on him to win the tournament, and that allows you to pick 3 or 4 other guys, and a chance to, if Day is 2-1 to finish in the top 10, you can still win money by just winning that one top 10 bet and having 3 or 4 other guys at between 10 and 25-1 that you like.
An example for that this weekend, I had Luke List to win, and I had Will Zalatoris to win. They got into a playoff. So either way, I was winning money. I just was cheering for the guy with the highest odds. But I also had Zalatoris to finish in the top 5. So I won that bet, plus, Luke List winning. So it was pretty much guaranteed that I was winning money no matter what happened.
It's all lanyard, but you were pretty comfortable in the back 9 on Saturday. Then I mean, on that one.
Oh yeah, when they turned the back 9, the leaderboard had the top 6 on the leaderboard. I had 4. That's the thing with golf betting. You can't just pick one guy and say this is the guy that's going to win. I mean, you got 150 players. Anybody can get hot. I mean, I bet 10 to 15 guys a tournament. So, I mean, just as long as you have, up in that area. I mean, last week I had Russell Henley to win. He had a 5-shot lead going into the back 9. He blows it and loses to Hideki Matsuyama. So, I mean, stuff like that happens too. And it ain't fun when that happens.
And the other point I want to make to our viewers too, when Jim says, hey, you might bet 100 on this and 10 on this, well, slide that to your scale, right? I mean, that means if you only have $100 in your entire account, which is great, you're having just as much fun as the rest of us. Maybe that means putting $10 on a top 40 and $1 on a $1 or $2 on a win. Slide that to your scale. Whatever a unit is for you should be about 1% of your bankroll.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
And so if you want to bet 1 unit, half a unit on a long shot, and then bet 4 or 5 units on a top 40, which would be your typical bet, slide that to where your bankroll is.
Yeah, I mean, I get people that ask me all the time, hey, I'm going to give you $100, bet this guy to win. I'm like, no, they can't do that. You got to bet within your means. If you want to give me $100, I'll make you $10 bets. That's the way golf works.
Yeah, got to grind a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Uncle Big Nick, we appreciate it. We're going to ask you for some picks as golf season really gets roaring, and thanks for joining us today. Be well.
All right, no problem. You too.
Go Niners.
Shut up.
What a way to end it. Okay, so that was Uncle Big Nick. We appreciate him joining us and talking about some golf betting. 4-figure payday or 5-figure payday? I guess we didn't get the exact amount.
If you include his win on list and his DraftKings lineup that finished second out of, I think, 600 or 700, he won 5 figures. That's a nice weekend, man. That is even with the Niners losing, that's a lot better than mine, and mine was pretty darn good. Yeah. So we will get some golf bets. We'll talk a lot of golf as we get into the spring and summertime, and you can too. You can get in on the action. NOLA.com/Caesars. Get the Caesars Sportsbook app. Get our special promo. You bet $20, you get $300 for free. And we got some other picks for you too. In fact, we have a new feature at bet.nola.com called Daily Best Bets, where we're going to give you, maybe it's just
one bet, maybe it's 4 or 5 bets each day of stuff we like, odds boosts we've seen. A lot of them will be from Caesars, but we're also going to peruse your other books, your DraftKings, your FanDuel, your MGM, and see, just see what's out there and tell everybody where you can get the most value. Doesn't mean we're guaranteeing winners or anything, but we're going to tell you where you can get the most value. And to that end, we've done pretty well. We started this on Friday, and Jim, you picked some winners. I picked some winners. We're going to have Spencer and Devin get on the action as well. We've had a pretty good start to this.
Yeah, it's been fun. You look at we're just basically basing everything on like $10 bets because really, in honesty, this is supposed to be fun. So we're trying to have fun with it as well. And in the grand scheme of things, my base bet my unit is probably $30. But this is all for fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, you decide your unit. If your unit is $2, then bet maybe $4 or $6 on each of these. If your unit is $10, then bet $30. If your unit is $100, then you decide what your unit is. You decide what you're comfortable, if you should lose, what you're comfortable losing, and go from there. But we're just picking $10 as a sort of a nice conservative estimate.
And we're not just willy-nilly picking these things. I mean, so far it's only been you and I doing it. I think is Spencer doing it tonight?
Spencer's doing it tonight, and we may send him a couple of suggestions. Yeah, so it's kind of a collaborative effort among all of us. And I can tell you that last night I spent like a little over an hour, like with our 2 picks, trying to go through and see some things that I like. So it's not just something, oh, wait, I got to put a best bet together. I think we take pride in our record, right? In anything that we do, we want to have, certainly in my NFL picks column, I want to be as far over 500. In the cashing in with Carville thing, it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but I want to beat the heck out of Jeff Duncan. So when you and I are putting picks in, and when Devin does it, when Spencer does it, we want to make sure that we look good as well. So we're putting time into this, and these aren't just things that we're pulling out the sky or saying, oh, let me see what the first big boost that is that we can pick. Because actually, I saw a boost that I liked, and I started crunching the numbers and trying to figure out what the parlay should pay, and it didn't pay what it was supposed to pay. I'm like, well, that's not a great boost bet after all. So I took it off my list. Don't bet those boosts blindly. Don't do it.
Yeah. I took it off my list because I started writing it up. I said, let me just go to my parlay calculator and see. I'm like, oh, that doesn't even pay what it should normally pay anyway. So that's not really that great of a pick. I'm not going to say what it was, but so I took it off my list and started over.
And so again, looking into that, we had some nice hits. That Giannis to go over 50 points, rebounds, and assists on Friday, hit at plus 350. We had Joel Embiid went well over. Jimmy Garoppolo was a little last play magic. We got that INT at the end, but hey, everyone's a winner.
It works.
The one at the top there is interesting. The Pelicans over 101.5 points. That's just a team total against the Nuggets on Friday, and that was an odds boost from Caesars, where if you just went in and bet the regular team total, it was 107 at shaded to minus 110 or maybe even minus 115 either side. So 101.5 is almost like you were getting 6 free points at even money. And so that's just extreme value right there. And part of that is some of these are promotions. Caesars is not going to have that every single day. You can't expect that. But when we do see them, we'll point them out. And so that one was a win. We had a soccer win Canada over the U.S. on a draw no bet. So it worked out pretty well. And tonight, it's kind of a similar thing, Jim. These are your best bets. The Pels plus 10.5 over the Cavs, and I put minus 110 up there, but that has become an odds boost because even as the line has moved, and we'll bring this up here, the Pelicans are now only 6.5 point dogs in this game. The line has moved well in their favor, and I think it's got to be because Brandon Ingram and Jonas Valanciunas are expected to play. But the lines move well in their favor. But you can still go to the Caesars app. Caesars is the only app that has this, and get them at 10.5 for even money.
Well, I went and looked to see. That was the first thing I thought of when I woke up this morning and saw that it was 6.5. Because when I went to bed last night, the regular spread was 10. It was 10 on Caesars. It was 10.5 on BetMGM. And then, so I went and looked last night. There was no word on whether BI or Valanciunas would play. I woke up this morning and saw it was 6.5. I said, well, let me go look. And there's really no word that I can find. But what it tells me is that big money people and people in the know expect Brandon Ingram or Jonas Valanciunas to play. More likely Brandon Ingram, at least. because the line wouldn't move that much, I don't think, with Valanciunas playing. But one thing I looked at, the Cavaliers are coming off a back-to-back. They lost the Pistons straight up, where they were, I believe, 7-point favorites. So and the Pelicans are a little bit more rested. And the Pelicans actually fare well when in spots like this. So and people tend to fade the Pelicans after a loss. So I just think it's a good spot here. And again, somebody knows something that we don't know.
Yeah, and it's usually nice to piggyback those things. So yeah, that's a good one. And then this parlay, this is sort of the other side of that coin. This was an odds boost parlay in college basketball. Duke, Iowa, Baylor, and Colorado State. And I'm gonna blank. Iowa's playing Penn State. Baylor is playing Kansas State.
Players playing West Virginia.
Virginia. I'm sorry. Colorado State's playing Wyoming, and then I'm blanking on who Duke is playing.
Duke is playing.
Is it NC State?
No. Hold on, I'm going to call it up for you right here.
Okay, we'll call that up. But anyway, my point is here. This was plus 475 boost. They're playing Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, who's actually played well last week, so it's not a gimme. They're only 5 points.
This was boosted up to plus 475 this morning. That boost is now only 375 on Caesars, so it's moved. So be careful. I don't
like it as much. Yeah, I don't like it for sure.
I mean, that's obvious to say, but
I'm going to say, and look, here's my thing about this. I think Baylor and Iowa, to me, they're both fairly decent sized favorites. Although Iowa's not that great of a team, but they just beat Penn State by 17 a couple weeks ago. Duke and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's played really well against good teams, especially at home. But I think Duke's in a position now where they've got to start cranking it up a little bit. So really what it comes down to is Colorado State against Wyoming. Colorado State, I believe, is a 1.5-point favorite. It was even last night. So I find it strange that it moved up 1.5 points on that line. Maybe it's because of these boosted parlays. I don't know. And people are just picking that out. But all these teams are favored. But still at 4-1, you're not getting as great money on. To be honest, at 4 3/4 to 1, I was still I don't know if I should put this in as a best bet. So 3 3/4 to 1, I probably wouldn't play it.
Yeah, that's one of those kind of
maybe
iffy
for a
ones.
couple bucks.
And again, we're going to do $10 bets on all of them, and so that better than 50-50 chance that one ends up losing because it's plus 375. But if you're looking for a long shot, maybe you put a couple dollars on it, have some fun watching those college basketball games. That's really what it's all about: is do this to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
I just wish this was around when Devin Jackson was making his college football picks.
Oh my gosh, Devin wouldn't be working for us anymore. Then he'd be living in some mansion on the Gulf, man. So I don't know if I wish that or not. I do want to bring it back to the NFL just real quick before the end of the show. And I know, Jim, you and I talk a lot, so let's give Devin a shot here. Devin, how about a sort of an X factor to this game, Bengals and Rams, something that we wouldn't normally think of? Obviously, we know Burrow and Stafford both very capable. We know about Jamar Chase. We know about the Rams' defensive line, Cooper Kupp. What's something under the radar that you'll be digging into when you handicap this game?
I think I'm gonna look at the matchup between Joe Mixon and the Rams linebackers because the Rams linebacking core is not exactly great. They have a lot of holes in that linebacking room, but I think Joe Mixon can be the X factor in this game because I don't expect the Bengals to run for 200 rushing yards, but he could be a really good value as a Super Bowl MVP pick. Because I really think he's going to be a threat out of the backfield receiving wise and kind of similar to what the Patriots did 3-4 years ago against the Rams. They went a lot to James White and kind of utilizing him out of the backfield. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals put together a game plan where Mixon is involved heavily in the offense and they attack that matchup between he and the linebacker. So I think Joe Mixon can be the X factor to this game. Like I said, I don't expect him to be 150, 100, 200 yards rushing, but I think he could get that total yardage wise in both rushing and receiving. And I think he can be kind of that security blanket for Joe Mixon, especially with CJ Uzomah, who went down with an injury in the Chiefs game. So I think Joe Mixon can be someone to really watch, and maybe we're putting down to bet him winning the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, 25-1 is the odds there. And I will say this: I don't know if Joe Mixon will get that much action, but the Bengals would be smart to try to establish that run to slow down the pass rush, because they're going to have to slow down that pass rush one way or the other.
My X factors that are the coaches. Sean McVay's been here before. Zach Taylor can't even fathom what the next 2 weeks are going to be like for him. How long is it going to take him to get ready to prepare to be in a game like this? And it's something I will probably do research on. And first time Super Bowl coaches against, especially, what is he, a second year coach? I mean, so it's something I will certainly do research on and look into, but I can't imagine. There's a big difference between what McVay's feeling right now and what Zach Taylor's feeling right now. And it's going to take him probably an entire week to say, holy crap, to not say, I mean, holy crap, I'm really going to the Super Bowl. Whereas McVay probably started planning when he was on the team plane. Well, he didn't have to go to the team plane, he was home, but went back home or went back to his office or wherever he goes. They've already started game planning. So that's a big difference in my mind. And you're talking about a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow. Against, even though Matthew Stafford hasn't been to the Super Bowl before, the fact that he is a 13-year vet, I mean, that's a big difference. So both of those things in my mind are big X factors.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a fun game. I like the matchup. I like it a lot better than I would have, seen the Chiefs in there again. The Chiefs are a fun team to watch. I would have enjoyed it anyway, but this is going to be a lot of fun seeing how they react. And maybe Zach Taylor he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet, and maybe that'll get him through.
Here's a stat. I have a stat for you. It's the first time, I believe, in 19 years that a Super Bowl hasn't contained either Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, the San Francisco 49ers, and I can't remember what the other one was. I think Peyton Manning was the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
so that's a pretty interesting stat, and it is a good new blood Super Bowl. And even for people like me who kind of like the same Super Bowl is anticlimactic, and people are eating chips in your ear, and Aunt Mabel's talking on this couch with Drunk Joe, and you're thinking in your head, please be quiet, and so it wasn't like that yesterday. No, everybody let me watch the games yesterday, so that's why. But it's going to be fun for even someone like me to watch Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. Devin, your final thoughts? You're on mute there.
Sorry about that. But looking forward to seeing kind of the narratives build over the next couple of weeks, because there's going to be a lot of narratives built around, the Bengals offensive line. Will Aaron Donald break the sack record? Like all types of nonsense that probably won't even happen during the game. So I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, a lot of former LSU talk, got Jamar Chase, OBJ, Joe Burrow, Tyler Shelvin, so a name
Andrew
some people
Whitworth
may not know about too as well. So there's going to be a lot of former LSU players in the game that are playing.
Former Saints too, Devin.
Yeah, former Saints as well. So it's going to be a lot of local guys that we're going to be able to see, the Super Bowl. So definitely looking forward to that over the next couple of weeks, and very interested to see some of these prop bets once they come out. Commercial length, national anthem length. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, and by the way, we're going to have a lot of that. By the way, we also got to talk Saints coaching. That probably will wrap up in the next couple of weeks as well. Had a couple of comments from earlier. Saints should go after Jim Harbaugh or Brian Flores. Don't think they're going after Harbaugh. Brian Flores is on the interview list. So we'll follow that story. We're going to have prop bets. In fact, we've got a fantasy roundup show next Tuesday talking about, this will be February the 8th at 3:30. Spencer Urquhart's been doing a lot of research on props. He's got his fantasy angle for player props, but he's also been researching your national anthems, your Gatorade color, all this kind of stuff you can bet on. And there is a way to research it, right? What kind of color Gatorade have the Rams had all year? What kind of color Gatorade have the Bengals had all year? Is there a way to figure that out? Let's do some research here and be smart bettors instead of necessarily just, trying to be lucky bettors. Our thanks to Uncle Big Nick. We'll also be back on Thursday with At the Book. We'll get some golf picks from him. We'll talk more Super Bowl. Might even have a Pro Bowl bet for you. Hell, why not? Lots of good comments today. Our thanks to those. Is there any way, by the way, to save a comment? We had someone like that one, for instance, is such a great comment. We might just want to copy that one and use it week.
End the show, for God's sake.
This has been Bayou Bets. Jim Derry and Devin Jackson. I'm Zach Ewing, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Thanks for being here, everybody.